I'm 42 years old at the moment. I've experienced SVT since I was 16, supraventricular tachycardia. I've probably had 100 incidents that required me to go to the hospital to be converted. Defibrillation is rarely used to convert me. However, I had previously been defibrillated 3 times with no negative consequences. I've undergone 3 ablation treatments to treat my arrhythmia, but nothing appears to be working. To control the episodes, I've been taking a variety of beta blockers since I was 16. Most of the time, I'm aware that I'm about to have an SVT, and during each episode, I'm conscious, conversing, joking, and quite lighthearted. They've never been accompanied with agony, fear, or the knowledge that I'm going to die. This attack was strange from the start, and I became extremely terrified very quickly. My husband Larry and I were laying in bed at 12:40 a.m. on Sunday, September 19, 2010, and had just turned off the lights to go to sleep. When I felt suffocated, I was resting on my back with my head on my pillow. I strained for air and suddenly found myself in an SVT. Larry hurried me to the hospital like he'd done numerous times previously, assuming it was simply another incident. I knew right away that this one was different. With the agony in my arm, dry mouth, scorching chest, and discomfort in my neck, and I was a little scared. In prior episodes, when we were on our way to the hospital, I'm chatty, pushy with my driving, and just plain bossy. However, this was the single occasion when I was unable to talk. I felt detached, out of control, terrified, and amazed all at once. I felt like I was going to pass out as we arrived at the hospital. I requested oxygen and warned the nurses to get something going. This was not going to be a good day for me, because I'd had so many of these experiences. Several of the nurses recognized me and had previously worked on me. They initially treated the situation as if it were just another episode, but I kept warning them. This is going to go really awful really rapidly. Do something. I felt like I was losing control of my intestines once I started throwing up. My blood pressure went down to 56/27. I overheard them requesting a pre-code. When I heard this, I realized they were referring to me. I felt a lot better. I was no longer afraid since they'd realized I wasn't going to make it. At this moment, things began to move quickly. I think I'm going to die, I told Larry. Everything will be fine. I just wanted him to be prepared rather than surprised. At this time, I'm still Lori and in my body, with my brain operating and knowing. I was no longer terrified. I felt defeated. I handed over entire authority to the nurses and doctors who had converted me so easily in the past. Despite the fact that I had fully yielded to the doctors, I had complete blind confidence that I was about to die and was perfectly fine with it. Lori. I don't recall anything at this time. I'm having difficulty putting into words what happened because the sensation is one of knowing rather than knowing. It's like attempting to turn an apple orange. I recall throwing up and begging the doctors to let me poop, and they kept telling me to do it in my pants. I don't recall who was in the trauma room. I didn't see my husband anymore. All I heard was some Asian doctor remark, "You're in good hands." Yes, I'm going to be in good hands. My last conscious brain thought. That is the last thing my body recalls. In the trauma room, my father, who died in April 2008, and I were standing near an orange cap. But this is not how our minds think. I didn't see his face, but I had a knowing. I didn't have Lori's identity, but I was the essence of who I am. We stood. Stood is the wrong term because it implies we had feet or were solid substance, but we didn't hover either. My father and I simply were by some orange caps that seemed to be up high, and we could see, not with our eyes, but know that there were a lot of people in the trauma room, and you could feel the stress, anxiety, excitement, dread, anger, and irritation amongst all those individuals. My father and I exited the trauma room since the sensation was unpleasant. Before we left, I could tell a man in scrubs was having a temper tantrum. That's the best way I could explain it. Once again, the word here makes you think you're using your ears when you're not. The nurses around him gave off the impression that he was a whiner or a complainer, and they dismissed him completely. My father and I were somewhere dark. It seemed like the basement of my house without the lights turned on. I could detect my father's body odor. It was wonderful, peaceful, knowing, communicative, loving, gentle, fun, cheerful, and soft. These words pale in comparison to what it was. It was right. It was beautiful. It was just the way it should be. His essence is pleased with me. His essence is pleased that I am with Larry and that I must depart now. I can't stay in essence any longer. There's nothing physical about it. It feels like when you are. So I refused to go when I sensed he was sending me back. I desperately wanted to stay. I didn't care how this would make my husband, who was surely ill with worry, or my son, who had just moved away from home, feel. I just wanted to be there. I just knew that there was nothing bodily, so he couldn't make me. Yet he bumped me hard, and I flew into a white tunnel at breakneck speed. My father's visage appeared on top of Larry's next. It was as though the camera couldn't decide whether to focus on Larry's or my father's face. My father's face began to disappear. Larry's expression became more pronounced. I assumed I was still with my father. Only Larry is present with us. I was overjoyed until I told Larry, "See, Dad? Where has Dad gone?" Larry didn't say anything, so I remarked, "I saw Dad." To which Larry replied, "How is he?" with tears in his eyes. I became enraged because if Larry was with me, he should have known how I was feeling. Where was Dad if Larry wasn't with us? I had no idea where I was. What level am I at? How long did I stay? Why is Larry so agitated? There had to be something wrong, and I really wanted to go back to where I was. I was extremely unhappy to see my body, yet I could still feel the essence, like someone screaming. My human eyesight may be clearer, and my sense of smell is superior to that of a dog. I reasoned that if I located the orange cap, I'd be able to locate Dad. The orange cap turned out to be the bottom lid of a disposable container that was hanging on the wall, but it wasn't as high as I remembered. It was unmistakably the cap, but the view I saw was not proportional to where it was hung on the wall. I think about it a lot and keep picturing the orange hat in the scenery. Larry observed the entire event from a different perspective. My blood pressure dropped dangerously low when I went unconscious. The physician shocked me with an electrical defibrillator. I stopped breathing. They attempted to resuscitate me, and after a minute, I gradually began to stabilize. I started telling the nurses where I went after I had stabilized a little more. One of the nurses was reading a book about near-death experiences. That was absurd to me because there's no such thing as death, simply transition. Your body may perish, but your essence does not. It's been a week since my ordeal, and I'm still recuperating at home. My chest hurt a lot. Where the electric shock occurred, I got burn marks. They seem to have broken my nose. The base of my spine is an excruciating discomfort as a result of pushing the mask so tightly against my face to assist me breathe. I can't stand the smell or sight of red meat now that I've had this experience. It makes me feel sick. Everything seems to be at maximum loudness to me. I feel so alone and alone in my own little universe. I detect odors that are not present. I left my residence without Larry for the first time yesterday. When I meet strangers in the shop, it's as if I can sense their essences. But it exhausts me so much that I can only be out for brief periods of time. This has been really difficult for Larry. It has left him fearful of death and me wanting to return. I believe in the death of a body, but the term death is misused. It should be referred to as transition. We would all be much better off if the general public understood transition as they understand death. I understand what people mean when they talk about crossing over. I believe there are many degrees of transition, and I'm not sure where I was. I just know I wish I could return.